Are you tired of watching English videos and still not speaking? You know the words, but can't say them. You understand the sentence, but you freeze when it's your turn. You've watched 100 lessons, but you still sound like a beginner. And worst of all, you feel like your mouth just doesn't move the way native speakers do. So here's the real question. What if you're not learning the wrong words, but using the wrong method? Most learners do this. Textbooks, grammar rules, flashcards, repeat, memorize, forget. They practice with zero emotion, flat, boring sentences. And when it's time to speak in real life, silence, shame, frustration. You don't just lose your words, you lose confidence. But what if I told you your brain doesn't learn through rules, it learns through rhythm, through muscle memory, through emotion, through story. And that's exactly what you'll experience in this video. We'll use a powerful English imitation lesson, inspired by real people who started from zero and found their voice. People who failed. People who stuttered. People who didn't just practice English. They became it. And now, you will too. You'll hear slow, clear narration, designed for full understanding. You'll repeat real-world English, not fake textbook talk. You'll feel the emotion in every line, so it sticks forever. Imagine this. You walk into a store. The words come out smoothly. You sound natural. You don't hesitate. You finish a sentence, and someone replies, "Wow, your English is really good." You smile, not because you're perfect, but because you're finally free. One student watched this video and said, "I repeated it 3 times, and suddenly I could speak with flow. I never felt that before." So what are you waiting for? Enough of feeling stuck. Enough of silent classrooms and forgotten lessons. Your fluency isn't in grammar books. It's in your voice. Smash that like button if you're tired of struggling. Subscribe to Control English, because this isn't school. This is real practice for real speakers, like you. Turn on the subtitles, watch, repeat, transformation. Your breakthrough starts right now. Lesson 1. The train rattled through the city, and Jamal sat by the window, repeating a single sentence under his breath. "I can do this." His lips moved slowly, shaped by years of silence, shame, and shy hellos. Jamal wasn't afraid of hard work. He cleaned offices, delivered groceries, and helped his mother after long shifts. But when it came to English, real, spoken English, he froze. He had studied grammar books, watched TV with subtitles. But still, the words in his mind didn't match the ones that came out of his mouth. Then, one morning, he discovered something that changed his life. Imitation. Not parroting like a robot, but speaking like a human. Listening, feeling, echoing emotion. "This," he whispered, "could be the way." Lesson 2. Jamal's journey started with a voice, not his own, but one on an old podcast episode. A calm American accent said, "Repeat after me." "I am ready," Jamal did. "I am ready." It sounded strange, but also right. For the first time, he wasn't just learning English, he was living it. He began to speak with his whole body, eyes, breath, hands. He didn't just copy the words, he became the voice. Every morning, he stood in front of the mirror, pressing play and repeating sentence after sentence. He wasn't fluent yet, but he felt something bigger. Momentum. Lesson 3. At work, Jamal took tiny risks. He began saying, "Good morning," with a little more confidence. He asked, "How are you?" even when he feared the answer. His co-workers noticed. A security guard smiled and said, "You're talking more these days." Jamal laughed. I'm imitating confidence, he replied. The guard raised an eyebrow. Fake it till you make it. No, Jamal said. Feel it till it's real. Each interaction was an imitation practice. He watched their mouths, matched their rhythm. He wasn't just repeating anymore, he was communicating. Lesson 4. One night, Jamal found an old recording of Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream. He hit play, and then, for nearly an hour, he imitated the speech. Not just the words, but the pauses, the hope, the rhythm. He felt chills, not because he sounded great, but because, for once, he felt great. He realized something that every English learner must understand. You don't need to be perfect to be powerful. You need to be present. Imitation was no longer a technique. It was his training ground for voice, for courage, for life. Lesson 5. Weeks turned into months. Jamal's voice grew stronger, clearer. He started teaching his younger sister how to imitate too. They'd sit on the floor, listening to audio clips and mimicking the speakers. Repeat with your heart, he told her, not just your mouth. One day, she turned to him and said, You sound American now. He laughed. I sound like me. And he did. Jamal wasn't erasing his accent. He was sharpening his expression. Every sentence he imitated brought him closer to the world, closer to belonging, closer to himself. Lesson 6. In a small classroom tucked behind the public library, Jamal found something unexpected, a group of learners just like him. They called themselves Echo Club. Each member had one goal: to speak better English through imitation. They practiced movie dialogues, speeches, and conversations, repeating after one another like musical instruments learning harmony. Jamal sat among them, nervous but curious. When it was his turn to imitate a phrase from a TED Talk, his voice cracked. But no one laughed. They clapped. You brought a feeling, someone said. And that night, for the first time, Jamal didn't just feel like a learner. He felt like a speaker. Lesson 7. The Echo Club changed Jamal's life. It gave him community, courage, and structure. They didn't memorize vocabulary lists or grammar rules. Instead, they chased emotion. If it doesn't move you, their leader often said, you won't remember it. So they laughed, cried, shouted, whispered, imitating everything from heartfelt movie scenes to passionate speeches. Jamal's favorite was Robin Williams in Dead Poets Society. Carpe diem, seize the day, boys, make your lives extraordinary. He said it over and over until it wasn't just a line, it was a life command. Lesson 8. Imitation, Jamal learned, wasn't copying, it was an honor. Honoring the voices that moved him, honoring the rhythm of real conversation, and most of all, honoring his own story. One day, the group leader challenged them to write a story about their lives, then read it aloud while imitating their favorite English speaker. Jamal hesitated. Who would he choose? Then he remembered. Will Smith's voice, strong, warm, honest. So he wrote his story, about growing up with fear of speaking, about finding voice in silence. And when he read it in Will Smith's rhythm, it wasn't an imitation. It was a transformation. Lesson 9. That week, Jamal started recording himself, not just imitating others, but speaking his truth with clarity. He listened back, cringing at first, every mistake, every awkward pause. But then, he heard something else. Growth. He began a new habit. Every morning, he recorded a 1-minute imitation. Every night, he listened and improved. This is my voice, Jim, he joked. Just like muscles grow with reps, so does speech. His voice, once hesitant, now carried tone, pacing, and power. Not perfect, but powerful. Lesson 10. At a local cafe, Jamal applied for a weekend job. The manager, a fast-talking woman named Cheryl, interviewed him on the spot. "Why do you want to work here?" she asked. Jamal smiled and responded clearly. "Because I want to speak to people, not just learn English, but live it." She stared. "That's probably the best answer I've heard today." He got the job. That evening, as he cleaned tables and practiced small talk with customers, he felt something he hadn't felt before. Belonging. Not because he spoke like a native, but because he spoke like himself. With heart and with practice. Lesson 11. The cafe became Jamal's new classroom. Every customer was a chance to learn. "How's your day going?" he'd ask. He listened not just to the answers, but to how people spoke, where they paused, how they used their hands, how their tone rose and fell like music. Then, later, on the bus home, he'd replay those moments in his head. "That's how he said, 'Not too bad.' And you?" Jamal whispered, practicing under his breath. He was no longer afraid of sounding imperfect. He was more afraid of missing a chance to grow. Lesson 12. One evening, Jamal met a man at the cafe who worked in radio. The man noticed Jamal's clear tone. "You've got a good voice," he said. Jamal laughed. "I've worked hard on it, every day, repeating, listening, copying." The man nodded. "That's how the best voices begin." Jamal went home buzzing. A good voice, not just passable, good. He stood in front of his mirror, said the words again. This time, they felt bigger than English. They felt like an identity, like presence. "I've got a good voice," he said again, louder, firmer. Lesson 13. Jamal started to record a podcast, just short voice notes, 5 minutes a day. Topics like what I learned from my first English mistake, or why confidence isn't about being right. He didn't publish them, not yet, but he listened, analyzed, grew. He began experimenting, speeding up, slowing down, using emotion. Every podcast episode was built on imitation. He'd listen to real podcasts, copy a few lines, then build his own in the same rhythm. It was imitation plus imagination. He wasn't just learning how to speak English. He was learning how to own it. Lesson 14. The Echo Club announced a public event. Speak Night. Each member would perform a short talk or scene in front of a small crowd. Jamal's heart raced. Speak. In public? With real people watching? He wanted to run. But he also wanted to rise. He chose a monologue from a Will Smith interview and added his own lines. The night came. Lights. Microphone. Eyes. He stepped forward. His palms sweated. He remembered the breathing exercises. He looked out at the audience and began. Word by word, emotion by emotion. Half imitation, half soul. When he finished, the silence hung. Then, applause. Lesson 15. After the show, someone tapped his shoulder, a high school teacher. "Would you be willing to talk to my students?" she asked. "They need to hear how you found your voice." Jamal nodded slowly. He hadn't imagined this. Just months ago, he couldn't order food without panic. Now people wanted his voice to teach. That night, walking home, Jamal thought about the journey, the fear, the first imitation, the mirror talks. The quiet voice is growing louder. And now, a new chapter. Not just learning English, but teaching through it, helping others feel what he had finally found, that fluency begins with belief. Lesson 16. Jamal walked into the high school classroom with nervous excitement. 30 students looked up, Some half-interested, some curious, a few with that same fear Jamal once carried. He didn't open with rules or grammar tips. He opened with the truth. "I used to be scared to speak," he said softly. "I thought mistakes made me sound stupid. But then I realized every mistake was a brick in the house I was building." He paused. He saw them listening, so he went deeper. "I started copying voices, not to fake who I was, but to find who I could be." Lesson 17. After the session, a quiet girl approached. Her name was Carla. She whispered, "Sometimes I don't speak because people laugh at my accent." Jamal smiled, remembering that same pain. "Your accent," he said, "isn't a weakness. It's your story in sound. Imitate others, yes, but don't erase yourself." Carla blinked, surprised. "You mean I don't have to sound perfect?" Jamal leaned closer. "You don't need to sound perfect. You need to sound real." That day, Carla joined Jamal's online echo group, and so the cycle began again, voice passing voice, courage growing louder. Lesson 18. Jamal's podcast went live that weekend. He called it Speak Bold. The first episode was titled Speak Even If You Shake. In it, he told his story, the fear, the echo group, the cafe, the lessons. His voice cracked once during the recording, and he left it in. "That's real," he said. The episode gained quiet traction. 50 listeners, then 200, then 1,000. English learners from towns, cities, even farms messaged him. "You sound like us. I've never heard someone talk about fear so honestly. Your voice makes me believe I can speak too." Lesson 19. He began hosting weekly online live sessions, just a webcam, a headset, and his full heart. The first topic: how to learn English by being brave. He didn't teach grammar first. He taught storytelling, confidence, the power of imitating emotion, not just words. He'd say, "Don't just copy what they say, feel what they felt. That's how your words come alive." People started recording their own imitations, sharing them, commenting on each other's videos. It wasn't just learning anymore. It was a movement. Lesson 20. A year passed. Jamal stood in front of a large auditorium. The Echo Club had grown into an organization, with chapters in 10 states. His parents sat in the front row. His old fear whispered in the back of his mind, "What if you forget your words?" But he smiled and replied inwardly, "Then I'll speak from the heart." He opened his mouth. The same voice once silenced by fear now filled the room with power and purpose. We don't speak English to sound better. We speak English to connect, to belong, to rise. The crowd rose in applause, not for perfection, but for possibility. Lesson 21. After the auditorium event, a reporter interviewed Jamal. "What's your secret to learning fluent English?" He smiled and replied, "It's not a secret. It's a rhythm. First, listen like your life depends on it. Then echo what you hear. Not just the words, the feeling, the weight, the pauses. Do that every day. And most importantly, forgive yourself for being human. Language is messy. That's why it's beautiful." The article titled him The Voice Maker. But Jamal knew it wasn't about his voice anymore. It was about unlocking the voice in thousands. Lesson 22. Jamal visited his old neighborhood. The corner where he once stood silent at the bus stop now held memories of whispers, self-practice, and shy starts. He passed the shopkeeper who used to speak too fast for him to follow. This time, Jamal greeted him in perfect rhythm. "Hey, Mr. Ali, still making the best coffee in town?" Mr. Ali laughed. "Now you sound like a broadcaster." Jamal smiled. That one sentence, one casual laugh, meant more than any certificate. He was now understood in the place where he once felt invisible. Lesson 23. He began training volunteers. Former learners turned leaders. Each had their story. Carla, once afraid of her accent, now hosted her own local echo circle. Luis, who stuttered when nervous, now ran a speaking podcast. May, who only practiced in her mirror, now taught teens from rural schools how to breathe through sentences. Jamal saw himself in each of them. Every student he trained became a seed. The voice you build, he'd say, is not just for you. It's for the next person watching in silence. Lesson 24. A scholarship fund was created in Jamal's name, but when they asked what it should be called, he didn't want his name on it. Call it Speak Forward, he said, because this isn't about the past, or me. It's about the next kid afraid to say their name aloud. The girl who thinks her voice is too small. The boy who wants to speak, but doesn't know where to start. The first round of scholarships went to students from towns like his, places where big dreams often sit quiet. Not anymore. Lesson 25. Now, if you're listening to this, wherever you are, whether you're in a busy city or a quiet little town, this is your reminder. You don't need perfect grammar to speak with power. You don't need a fancy accent to be heard. What you need is belief, the courage to echo, to repeat, to fail forward, and to rise again. Start by imitating. Then speak as you, because inside your voice is a story someone else needs to hear. Don't wait to be fluent to start. Speak now. Speak small. Speak with heart. And one day, like Jamal, your words may light up someone else's silence.